On today's Locked On Giants podcast, let's take a slightly different angle regarding the future of the New York Giants quarterback position and how the team could address it. That's coming your way next on the Locked On Giants podcast.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily New York Giants podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, New York Giant fans, and welcome to another edition of the Locked On Giants podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast family, your team every day. I'm your host, Patricia Traina, credential member of the New York Giants media for Locked On, as well as for New York Giants on SI, which is where you can find all my written work. And as always, welcome on in to my Blue Crew community members, to my everydayers, to my newcomers, and everybody in between. Thank you so much for spending part of your day with us here on the Locked On Giants podcast. And today's episode of Locked On Giants is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use our promo code LOCKEDONNFL to get $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. All right, folks, on today's Locked On Giants podcast, we're going to talk quarterback. Now, everybody seems to think that the Giants have to draft a quarterback. They have to do it. They don't have a quarterback on the roster right now. They are expected to retain Tommy DeVito, who is an exclusive rights free agent, but the Giants have to draft a quarterback, right? Well, we're going to talk about that because while, logic would say, yes, draft a quarterback, I'm going to use these next three segments to kind of go into the how, why, and some possibilities that they might be thinking of. So we will see, how it all plays out, obviously, in April, but I'm going to give you something to think about. So with that said, let's jump right in. All right. So the big question, QB or not QB, right? I feel like we asked this question last year only to be let down. This year, everybody is saying it's got to be Shedeur Sanders or it's got to be Cam Ward or bust. And we know, based on where the Giants are drafting, they're drafting third in the order, that with Cleveland and Tennessee both needing a quarterback, that there is no guarantee that Sanders and or Ward are going to make it down to the Giants. So that being said, let's say if they don't, then the problem is kind of solved, right? But let's say that one of them does make it down to the Giants. Should the Giants draft one of them? Here's where the opinions start to differ a little bit. Now, you guys know how I feel about the quarterback situation. You know that last year I was banging the table to get a quarterback in the draft, whether if it was first round, whether it was trading down, trading back into the first round, or taking a flyer on a day two or a day three prospect, none of which the Giants did, by the way. This year, all right, here's the problem with the quarterback class. It is thin. Right? You've got Sanders, you've got Cam Ward, you have Kyle McCord, who just declared. Can we honestly say that, other than maybe Sanders and Ward, that those guys, that anybody else in this quarterback class is worthy of the top three pick? Probably not. Can we honestly say that Sanders and Ward, if they had been in, say, last year's class, would they have been a top three pick? I don't think so. I mean, maybe I don't think they would have. I think they would have been maybe fourth or fifth in the pecking order. So that, all being said, there's a couple ways to look at this. If you're the Giants, do you just say, last year is last year. Let's not do a comparison. Let's focus on this year. Or do you just say, let's hold our water on drafting a quarterback in the first round because this class is not as rich talent-wise as the one in 2024 was. The 2026 class is going to be a little bit better. Now, for those who haven't been following along, there have been three big-name quarterbacks that have decided to return to school in 2025. Drew Allar of Penn State, Garrett Nussmeier of LSU, and Carson Beck of Georgia. I'm not saying that if those three had come out, that would have, changed the complexion that much of the quarterback class, but you give those guys another year and you look at some of the comparison between this year's draftable quarterbacks and next year's class just looks to me to be a lot better with a lot more options if you are a quarterback needy team. All right. So if you're the Giants, then what do? Do you say, look, we absolutely need a quarterback. We got to get our franchise quarterback. No ands, ifs, or buts about it. Or do you say, let's go with a bridge. We'll take a flyer maybe on a day 3 guy or maybe an undrafted free agent, see what happens there. And then we'll try again next year. Well, folks, to me, I'm thinking that I could see the Giants trading down. All right. I don't know that I can sit here and say to you at this point that the Giants are definitely going to take a quarterback at number 3. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking they've got to take a quarterback. Well, they don't. They really don't. I mean, you look at the draft class and you look at the free agent class. And folks, just my opinion, you can disagree if you want, that's fine. To me, the free agent class, the potential class of bridge quarterbacks, to me looks a lot better than the draft class of quarterbacks. All right? Whereas last year, the situation was reversed. So that being said, if you're the Giants, the last thing you want to do is you want to spend a number 3 overall pick on a guy that you're technically taking a flyer on, that maybe is a guy that, he's not quite all that you want, but because you're desperate to get a quarterback, you go and you spend the pick on him. You don't want to shop hungry, so to speak. So if you're the Giants, do you say, okay, look, if when we go on the clock, we're going in a totally different direction. We're going to punt on a quarterback this year and wait for next year. Do you take a flyer on a guy? Do you say, you know what? We can live with Ward or we can live with Sanders. We've got Brian Dable and he can turn those two guys, smooth out any rough edges those two guys have. Those are all the options that the Giants have to ask. And look, they're not limited, by the way, to just Ward and Sanders. There's going to be other quarterbacks in this class. But how many of those quarterbacks can we sit here and say, yeah, that guy is definitely a top 3 pick? I don't think there's a lot. I really don't. I don't see a lot. Now, disclaimer, I'm in the very early stages of looking at quarterbacks. I've already done a lot of work on them. I'm in the early stages. There are still the All-Star games, the Senior Bowl, obviously, the scouting combine, the pro days, all stuff that can help with boosting a guy's stock. But pretty much the tape is what the tape is. And if you're looking for the next Drake May or Jaden Daniels in this class, right now there's really, I don't think there's anybody that's sitting there that's saying, yeah, here I am. Maybe Shedeur Sanders, who would be maybe the closest. You can make a case for him maybe. You can probably make a case for Cam Ward. But I don't know that we can say that there is a slam dunk, yep, got to have him. If he's there, we're taking him. No questions asked, no hesitation in this draft class. So that leads us to the next part. What did the Giants do at number 3 when they come on the clock? Well, we'll talk about it right after this. This is a message from our sponsor, Intuit TurboTax. Ready for stress-free taxes and the most money back guaranteed? Get matched today with a TurboTax expert who will give you your taxes their undivided attention as they work with you on your return while you get real-time updates on their progress so that you can focus on your day. An expert who will find you every deduction possible and file every form, every investment, everything with 100% accuracy, all so that you can get the most money back guaranteed. No more waiting, no more wondering, no more worries. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live full service, real-time updates only in iOS mobile app. See guarantee for details at turbotax.com/guarantees. All right, Giant fans, welcome back to the Locked On Giants podcast. I'm your host, Patricia Traina. Coming up at some point this week on the Locked On Giants podcast, I'm going to give you my comprehensive plan how to fix the Giants. All right, I do this exercise every year around this time of the year. I'm going to go through it all. I'm going to start with salary cap. I'm going to look at free agents. I'm going to look at the draft. You're actually getting a little sneak peek of the draft, what I would do if I were the Giants, if I were advising the Giants. And some of you are probably going to sit there and say, gosh, I'm glad you're not advising the Giants. But hey, listen, we're all entitled to an opinion. And, if you agree, great. If you don't agree, tell me why. There's no reason why we can't agree to disagree, right? So anyway, let's get back to the quarterback situation, the biggest draft questions, if you will. So picking up where I left off in the first segment, if the Giants say, you know what, we're not going with a quarterback, even if Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward falls down to us, we're going to do something else at pick number 3. Okay, so a lot of people say, all right, if the quarterbacks aren't on the board, go with Travis Hunter, go with Will Johnson, go with Abdul Carter. You can't go wrong with any of those guys, right? Best player available. Folks, here's what I think is going to make the most sense for the Giants. All right. Now, if I'm saying in the first segment that if the quarterback just, there's nobody there that you really, really love, go back and hold your water, till 2026. Guess what? You're going to probably need some assets if you need to trade up, right? Now, there's no guarantee where the Giants are going to draft in 2026. That you could make the case that, okay, if they don't get a quarterback, they're going to stink again. We're going to go through this whole, misery of a season like we did in 2024. You can make that argument, but we don't know. Okay. Here's the thing. If John Mara is expecting Brian Dable and Joe Shane to produce better results, chances are you would like to think that the Giants won't be drafting in the top 10 somewhere. So that said, if you do decide, if you're the Giants, to say, you know what, we're skipping out on a quarterback, we're going to go in a different direction, trade down, get more assets in this class. Right now, I'm not talking about trading down to like the teens or the 20s or anything like that. I wouldn't even trade out of the top 10. But if you can find a team that is desperate to move up because they want a Hunter or a Johnson or a Carter, or if one of those quarterbacks, are on the board, trade down, get extra assets, not just for this year's class, but also for next year. Because again, if the quarterback class next year is as good as it's shaping up to be, you will want to have assets to move up if you need to. All right. The Giants this year, according to Over the Cap, the only extra asset they're going to get is an extra 4th round pick. That's not going to move the needle if you want to make a trade, at some point, or, and that's for this year, to be honest with you. So load up on draft assets. I think that's the way that, they would need to go if they don't like any of these quarterbacks. Again, I wouldn't go down too far. And, you'd have to look at the draft order, see who needs what. But I'm pretty sure there's going to be teams behind the Giants that'll probably want a Carter or a Johnson or a Hunter if those two quarterbacks, Sanders and Ward, are off the board. All right. Now, I know, again, you're probably thinking, well, if you do that, the team's going to stink again. Folks, nobody is sitting here realistically thinking that come next year, the Giants are going to be a Super Bowl contender. They are a long, long way off from being a Super Bowl contender. They need help everywhere. All right. If Shane Bowen is returning, and it looks like he is, they've got to address that defense. All right. They've got needs on that defense from front to back. Offense, they have some needs too. Don't get me wrong. The biggest of which is quarterback. So where I'm sitting, you get yourself a bridge quarterback that can win you some games, and you devote a lot of your draft resources to building up that defense, which is lacking. All right. You need talent, obviously, for Dexter Lawrence alongside of him. You probably could use an extra edge rusher. All right. You definitely need another cornerback. You may need another safety if Jason Pinnock leaves, which I believe he's going to. You need help at just about every position on that defense. And that's where I think, the extra assets will come in handy, because the Giants' defensive side of the ball is a problem. The offense, yes, they need some, quarterback. You can make a case for offensive linemen as well. But I think this year's Giants draft, is going to heavily focus on the defense, because that unit was a big problem. All right. It kind of got swept under the rug a little bit because of all the struggles on offense, but the defense was also a problem that desperately needs to be fixed. So you get more assets, you get a couple of assets for 2026. And when you have a better quarterback class in front of you, you can use that now to move up if you need to. Similarly, you get more assets in 2025, to where if you want to move up to get a cornerback, or if you want to move up to get a third edge rusher, or a safety, or a defensive lineman, whatever the position might be, you have flexibility. That's how I would approach it. The more I think about it, the more I think that makes sense. And, look, it's a gamble. I get it. But the draft has always been a crapshoot, if you think about it. There's no guarantees. And look, everybody seems to think that get the quarterback, get this guy, get that guy. You're drafting third. Folks, just because you're drafting in the top 5 doesn't mean that the guy you pick is going to be the next stud on your team. We've seen many times where a guy was drafted high and he hasn't worked out. So there's no guarantees. What the Giants need to do is they need to pick the right guy. They need to do their due diligence. They need to pick the right guy. They cannot shop hungry at any position, and that includes quarterback. All right, so that all being said, team desperately needs a quarterback. We can agree on that. They can take a flyer on a quarterback on day 3, or even as an undrafted free agent if there's somebody out there. But I think they go bridge, and I think the bridge guy is going to be their primary guy, obviously, in 2025, regardless. So what are some of their options? Well, we'll look at them right after this. Hey, Giant fans, if you love going to live events, you're going to love Game Time. Game Time makes it so easy to get tickets to your favorite events. With their new feature, Game Time Picks, this feature filters out all the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so that you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Game Time's vast inventory and flash deals offer you loads of options. Plus, they make the ticket buying experience so easy. Their super deals were particularly impressive. They offer great seats at unbeatable prices. Plus, the app's all-in pricing shows the total cost up front, with no surprise fees at checkouts. So go on and take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use our promo code LOCKEDONNFL to get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that promo code is LOCKEDONNFL, LOCKEDON, NFL, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. Hey, Giant fans, if you're looking to join an exclusive community of Big Blue Faithful where you can discuss the team and receive inside information in a toxic-free environment, then you need to check out the Locked On Giants Blue Crew community. Members get access to our exclusive by invitation only Discord channel where we can talk with one another ask questions, get breaking news, and so much more. Plus, as part of the Locked On Giants Blue Crew community, I will send you via text updated information, breaking news, and all that sent to your phone, and you'll be able to text back to me. So if you have a question or your thought, you want to text it only to me, you can send it through our Blue Crew membership. So come on and see what it's all about with a free 14-day trial. And when you use the promo code Blue Crew, you will get your first 2 months after your 14-day trial ends at 50% off the regular price, which is $4.99 a month. So if you don't like it, you cancel before your 14-day trial ends and you will owe nothing. If you like it, make sure you enter that Blue Crew promo code at sign up, and you will only have to pay half of $4.99 per month for 2 months. All right. So for more information or to register, visit joinsubtext.com/lockedonnygiants. And again, the promo code is Blue Crew, BLUECREW. You can enter that at the top of the page when you register. Text and data rates may apply. Please see your carrier's plan for details. All right, Giant fans, welcome back to the Locked On Giants podcast. I'm your host, Patricia Traina. All right, so we're talking about the quarterbacks. And if the Giants trade down, if they decide to punt on drafting a quarterback and say, okay, you know what, we're going to take a look at somebody next year, who are some of the veteran options that they can pursue that make the most sense? Now, Bleacher Report put out a recent proposal about the Giants making a trade for Kirk Cousins with the Atlanta Falcons. And I think the trade proposal was sending this year's fourth, because remember, the Giants will have an extra fourth round pick, and Dane Belton to the Falcons for Kirk Cousins. That's not happening. Okay. I understand why the author made that proposal, but you've got, again, your safety position is kind of thin, and Dayton Belton is not that bad of a player. And if you lose Jason Pinnock, which again I believe is going to be the case, the last thing you want to do is deplete that position. So I don't think that is in the cards. And also, if I'm the Giants, quite honestly, I wait and see if the Falcons just decide to release Kirk Cousins. I don't know that I make a trade for him. All right. The salary cap implications, not that bad. I think it would be like 27.1 if I'm not mistaken. The guaranteed money, obviously, the Falcons would be hit with that. But you wait and see. Maybe the Falcons cut him, and then you can redo the contract. But, for $27 million, a base salary, which is what the Giants would have to pick up if they were to acquire Kirk Cousins on his current contract, it's not bad. It's not bad. It really isn't. So that was one proposal there, but I don't think the Giants are going to go that route. Why give up draft assets unless, again, you're going to trade down and you're going to have all these assets to where you can now afford to do that? I don't know that I would do it personally. What I would do, obviously, I would go with a veteran bridge that's going to hit free agency. So some of the guys I'm looking at, to be honest with you, Jimmy Garoppolo, Carson Wentz, Jacoby Brissett, Andy Dalton, Justin Fields, even Sam Darnold. Now, look, none of those guys are going to come cheap. All right. Darnold right now is having a heck of a year for Minnesota. He won't come cheap. I get that. But the Giants have cap space to burn this year. And if I'm the Giants, spoiler alert, because I'm getting into my plan a little bit here, but if I'm the Giants, I take my free agency or my salary cap space rather, and I spend it on a quarterback and I spend it on a veteran cornerback to add some experience to what is a very young and still shaky group of players. That's how I spend the bulk of the money. Now, if I have leftover, which probably I will, I might get an offensive lineman into the mix because I don't know what they're going to do with Greg Van Roten. I don't know if Van Roten's going to come back. Are they going to say, okay, you know what, we're going to move Evan Neal to guard leave Jermaine Illuminor at tackle, and that's going to solve our offensive line problem. That's a possibility. But look, the Giants need a quarterback. Despite this entire exercise that I just went through, I am not sitting here and telling you that they can punt on a quarterback altogether. They got to get somebody in here. That somebody isn't necessarily Drew Lock. It's not necessarily Tim Boyle. Tommy DeVito, like I said, I do believe he'll be back because they do like to have some continuity in the quarterback room. And DeVito will have been now entering his third season in this system. He can be that continuity guy. All right. But they've got to get a guy in here who is athletic, who, can fit balls into tight windows, who is quick with his processing. That's what they've been missing. Okay. And they've got to find that guy. So it's going to cost them. Anybody who thinks that they can sign, a backup, a bridge quarterback for $5 million plus incentives, that's not happening. I would sign a bridge quarterback to a 3-year deal. All right. With the assumption that, guaranteed money this year, guaranteed money next year, and then you can get out of that contract after next year. Because if the Giants, as I think could be the case, if the Giants say, okay, you know what? We're going to look to draft our franchise guy in 2026. So you've paid guaranteed money this year to your bridge guy, next year to your bridge guy, which will allow you to let the rookie that you have ultimately draft sit and develop. And then after that, you can get rid of the bridge guy in year 3, the final year of the contract, and flip the switch over to the rookie. So that's kind of how I see it playing out. Now, is that how it's going to play out? Again, I don't know. I don't think the Giants know at this point what they're going to do. I think they need to do, obviously, a little bit more work on the quarterbacks. Brian Dable needs to get involved, obviously. If Mike Kafka comes back, he's going to get involved. Shea Tierney's going to get involved. They have to go through the All-Star games, the combine, the pro days, all that stuff. They've got to get around these kids. And they've got to see, okay, what are they like? Can they handle the pressure of the New York market? Can they handle the offense? Remember, this Giants offense is not the easiest in the world for a quarterback to learn, which is yet another issue that they have to make sure that they have the right guy on. So all that has to go into the pot in terms of the decision making. How's it going to turn out? Well, we're going to keep it here all off season long. We're going to follow it along. I'll have updates. And I will at some point, I'm not sure when, I'm working on it now, but I want to have some scouting people to come on the show to talk about the quarterbacks, see where they would fit in if they were in last year's class, to talk about next year's class, just to kind of give you an overview, an overall look at the quarterback situation, because it's not necessarily a 1-year answer, if you will. It might be a multiple year answer. Which, will Giants ownership have patience? Well, that's a whole nother topic for another day. But that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you as always for tuning in to the Locked On Giants podcast. And don't forget, I'm taking your questions for a mailbag. The goal is to do the mailbag on Friday. I think that's when we're going to do it. So if I have enough questions, I'll do the mailbag for the podcast on Friday. So please send me your questions. The information on how you can send them in is in the show notes. You can also tweet them to me if you want with the hashtag AskPTrain. Just make sure you put down that it's for the Locked On Giants podcast, so I don't, pick it up for the weekly New York Giants on SI mailbag. So that's our plan. Hope you will stick with us. Again, thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you tomorrow, Giant fans.